Do you really need that Toyota badge? Hi guys, Eric here and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be having a look at this 2017 Isuzu KB300 LX 4x2. It might not look very impressive, but make no mistake, there is some serious substance to this car. That is, if you forgive some of its foibles. If you live in the Western Cape and you have an original car in good condition you would like me to review, please get in touch. There's an email address in the description box below. Isuzu came to South Africa all the way back in the early 1970s. Well, technically at least. Locally named the Chevrolet LUV, it was actually an Isuzu import from Japan, but we built it in Port Elizabeth as well. The first KB arrived in 1979, still the same bucky as before, but this time facelifted and properly named the Isuzu KB. In 1980, we saw the new KB40, the first four-wheel drive bucky from Japan that was either petrol or diesel powered. In 1988, we got the third generation KB. This model stayed in production all the way until 2002. It was facelifted in 1997 and had an SUV counterpart, the Frontier. Power came from both petrol and diesel mills, including a 3.2 V6 that developed a healthy, for the time, 140 kilowatt. In 2004, South Africans received the fourth generation KB, which was actually the first generation D-Max. It was a complete overhaul from the third gen bucky, with a much more upmarket interior and exterior. It came in a host of configurations as well to keep up with competition. There was a range of diesel engines for the leisure buckies, including a 2.5 and a 3-litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel unit. This is the facelifted version of the fifth generation, a KB300 LX 4x2 double cab. The pre-facelift was made available all the way back in 2013. Power comes courtesy of a 3-litre inline-4 turbo diesel engine, which develops a middling 130 kilowatt and 380 newton meters of torque. The engine is quite rough under medium to hard acceleration, but otherwise is a decent unit. It is also mated to a competent 6-speed torque converter automatic transmission. When it comes to the KB's looks, I think it looks great, in the way that it forges its own path and has its own identity. It looks hyper-aggressive with these tapering headlights and flashy chrome grille. In profile, it is very similar to other buckies, with the exception of the rear window, which swoops upwards. The rear, again, is about what you would expect from a bucky. What does its interior look like, though? Step inside the Isuzu and you will be shocked by its neat and funky design touches. I never actually pegged Isuzu as the rebel bucky, but from where I'm sitting at least, it definitely feels like it. Take for instance these vertical air vents, an instrument cluster that won't look out of place in a sports car, and a center control stack that almost looks exactly like Optimus Prime's head. All of these pale in comparison though to the climate control panel. It looks crazy, especially for a bucky. It isn't all interesting touches though. In fact, with the exception of some stray silver plastic trim, the cabin is quite monocolor and dark. This is to be expected from a bucky though. Fit and finish is not really something to write home about, but it isn't that bad either. But build quality is exceptional. Everything feels very solidly put together. Use of materials, on the other hand, could be a bit better. It's not like its rivals use top-notch materials, but for some reason, the lack of those premium materials are more apparent in the Isuzu. The door's armrest, for instance, is unpadded rough plastics. The center armrest follows suit, and some of the switchgear feels a bit cheap and aftermarket. We will get back to that in a second though. For now, let's take a closer look, starting with the door panel. Well, the general design is rather simplistic, but some of the edges remind me a bit of Ford's. I also like the silver plastic trim that adds a sporty nature to it. Sadly though, the door pockets are achingly small. There isn't quite enough shiny trim to keep the door panel from looking dull, and some of the switchgear feels a bit dated even for 2012 standards. The door's armrest is also unpadded and has a rough texture, which will make for some sensitive elbows over longer journeys. The door handle is even made out of plastic, but in this case at least, it feels very solid and well made. On a similar note, while the doors do feel a bit light, they close with a very solid thud. Turning to the steering wheel, I think it looks the part. Its rim is wrapped in soft and yielding leather. The buttons are nice and big, and there's some silver trim to finish it off. What I also like is how uncluttered the button clusters are. Isuzu achieved this by moving the trip computer button to the end of the stalk, much like BMW does, but it is on the right-hand stalk, not the left. Sadly, like almost all its rivals, the steering column is adjustable for rake, but not reach, which isn't exactly ideal. Thankfully, the stalks look great and they're easy to understand. They feel quite hollow in operation, but it does suit the Isuzu's demeanor quite well. I can't exactly say the same about the dials though. This is a leisure diesel bucky, yet the dials have a sporty font and red accents. I must be honest though, I really like it. It looks uncluttered and the digits are nice and big, so it's easy to read. In between the two analog dials, you'll find a pixelated monocolor drives information display. It communicates a full trip computer, digital fuel and water temperature gauge, service information and outside temperature, about what you would expect out of this class of vehicle. Now for the infotainment system. I must be completely honest, it looks like an aftermarket unit. The menu structure is just unintuitive. For instance, to pair your phone, you have to press the shortcut home button, then press this all apps icon, scroll down to the settings part, find Bluetooth menu, and only then you can pair your phone. Also, some of the buttons feel a bit cheap and you don't get a volume dial, instead you get volume buttons. Now this is no crime, it's just not ideal. Other than that though, things are quite positive. The graphics are nice and crisp and the screen is bright. It is also very well equipped. You have an SD card slot, USB input, Bluetooth audio and screen mirroring. You even have access to satellite navigation. The standard fit sound system packs a decent punch as well. That's quite impressive. Not nearly as interesting though as the Isuzu's pièce de résistance, the climate control panel. It looks crazy. This massive single dial with circular buttons around it is like nothing I've ever seen before, especially on a bucky. Ergonomics wise though, let's be kind. Let's say it takes some getting used to. All the buttons are similarly shaped and sized, meaning that you have to take your eyes off the road to operate it, which isn't exactly ideal. Also, I wish that this massive dial controlled the fan speed, especially because the display within the dial indicates that it does. Instead, it operates temperature, something you don't adjust that often. On the other hand, the gear lever looks great in my opinion. It's both elegant and imposing. I wonder why. The center texture feels nice and premium, but the silver trim pieces feel a bit cheap. Now for the seats, they are very supportive. I have excellent lower back and under thigh support. They might not be the softest in its class, but for longer journeys, I will choose these pews over those of its rivals. The driver's seat is electrically adjustable to boot, and they are covered in comfortable leather. With the design out of the way, let's talk practicality. Storage solutions in the Isuzu is very impressive. The undampened glove box is of a good size. You get a secondary closable compartment above said glove box, a closable tray area on top of the dash, a miniature tray in front of the gear lever, two cup holders that are a bit narrow but are quite deep, a decent space underneath the center armrest, admittedly very small door pockets, and a sunglasses holder. You even get 2 auxiliary cup holders on either side of the dash. That's quite impressive. Get in the back and things are alright. Footroom is a bit limited, but knee room is excellent, and there's enough headroom for an average size male adult. The seats are oddly shaped though, which means only one of your legs have proper under thigh support. Storage on the other hand is really good. The door pockets are of a decent size for rear door pockets at least. You get pockets behind each front seat and your very own cup holders. You even get a drop down armrest. The window line is nice and low as well, which means that children get a great view out. The only amenities I'm missing back here are rear air vents. Now for the loading bay. Well, it's about par for the course for its class. In this 2x4 version, it has a payload of 1,135 kilograms. That is more than you get from a 79 series Land Cruiser. However, you don't get its off-road ability. It is also a decent square space, which is perfect for loading and unloading bigger items. Even the loading door is nice and light. So yeah, it's not bad at all. So the interior brought up some weaknesses in the Isuzu. What is its driving experience like though? Starting with driving around town, the Isuzu really impresses. Okay, so it is a bucky, so it suffers from poor rear visibility thanks to that tailgate. The turning circle isn't exactly the tightest, and the engine does get quite loud when you push it. On the other hand though, the high driving position gives you a great view out. The suspension is firm, but it's very well dampened. The engine provides a good amount of mid-range poke, and all the controls are nice and light. The automatic transmission doesn't hurt at all either. The Isuzu does feel quite big though, so thankfully you get a reversing camera which will help out for parking and navigating tighter spaces. Out on the twisties, and the Isuzu performs very well, much better than I thought. The steering is numb, but it is quite direct, which inspires some confidence. Body roll is very well kept in check as well. I'm surprised to say this, but it reminds me a bit more of driving an actual car than a bucky. Make no mistake though, this is no Porsche Cayenne, but for what it is, I'm impressed. Out on the open road, and the KB300 continues to impress. I have reviewed quite a few buckies on my channel, and I must say this one has the best insulated cabin. Do not underestimate how amazing that is. Road noise and tire roar is very well kept in check, and even though this particular model has done over 150,000 kilometers, there's not a single rattle in here. That just leaves me speechless. The suspension remains firm, but it doesn't crash over bumps, and these seats are extraordinarily supportive, so long distance cruising won't be a problem. The engine does get quite loud when you push it though, and it doesn't have quite enough shove to overtake swiftly when the opportunity arises, so plan ahead. Other than that though, well done Isuzu. When it comes to reliability, the KB does very well indeed. There are reports of CV joints on the front suspension that have quite short lives, and the automatic transmission which can get hot when used hard. But other than that, it is quite a solid offering. There is a caveat though, make sure that it has been well taken care of. A car will only take as good care of you as you do of it. Moving to its rivals, there are almost too many to count. The most obvious two would be the Toyota Hilux, which has excellent reliability and smooth engines, but the interior is really dark, and the Ford Ranger, which has a stunning interior, but engines are a bit on the rough side. There is also the Nissan Navara, which is a good all-rounder, but before 2021 lacks some towing capability. The VW Amarok comes closest to the KB when it comes to interior insulation, but it is a bit more expensive, and not as reliable. The wild card of the bunch is the GWMP series. It is much less expensive than its rivals and has a jaw-dropping interior. Dealer network isn't great though, and it is too new to know a lot about its reliability. Some interior niggles aside, I am really impressed with this Isuzu, particularly its driving experience. It's curious that a company that doesn't really make normal passenger cars make buckies that drive more like them. It is relatively reliable and it is an excellent long-distance cruiser. Well done, Isuzu. Thank you so much for watching another one of my reviews. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. It makes a world of difference to my channel. If you own an Isuzu and you have some additional feedback, please share it in the comments section below. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to my channel and get notifications of upcoming videos. I have loads more lined up for you guys, so stay tuned. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Until next time, bye.